Hey guys, what's going on? Inception here, and welcome to another video. Ladies and gentlemen, today we have another tier list to do today. So, guys, before I get started, okay, when it comes to the tier list, as usual, it is very opinionated based, okay? So don't always take my opinions to heart when it comes to me judging certain cards and whatnot, but it is just going to be my opinion. Here's the thing, okay? I want to talk about this promo a little bit. This promo was a little bit of a letdown, to be honest. The leaks were better than what it actually ended up being, because I feel like, you know, they did the whole thing with the SBC Pulisic, where he has the weak foot or the skill moves. I think the same thing should have been done to the transfer market cards, because it would have made the promo more interesting. It probably would have been, I would say, one of the biggest one of the biggest promos of FIFA if they did that, because when they do that in FIFA, guys, it really changes the dynamic of these cards. You know, with Rashford on a weak foot, with Correa from a 4 to a 5, right? Like, it makes a huge difference in my opinion, right? But we didn't get that, so we're just going to go ahead and just review the cards as it is, okay? So again, if I put them in certain tiers and people don't like it, it is what it is, guys. It's just opinions, right? So the first card that we are going to be checking out is the Adama Traore card. So we just recently reviewed this card, and I'm going to be honest with you guys. This is the first FIFA where I personally enjoy using the Adama Traore card. Now, I know some of you guys enjoyed using the card last year because he had like I think it was like the foot birthday card, where if you played him on getting behind and you guys used the meta of, you know, just going for the runs and then going for the first time strikes and whatnot, you know, he was pretty cool to operate with, right? This year, Adama works well for, you know, different reasons, right? So the card surprised me because he's formatted very strangely, but there's certain things that just kind of make him work, right? So obviously with the unique body type, 5'10" height, high low work rates, those things are super noticeable in game with the base card stats at 99 acceleration, 98 for sprint speed, right? The way that he moves across the pitch, guys, I didn't have a problem with his attacking positioning at all if you are playing him the way that he's kind of like meant to be played, right? So because he's a high-low work rated player, he's going to be a little bit more aggressive on those runs. So, you know, if you use him in like a 4-5, or not 4-5-1, but a 4-4-2 formation where you're playing him in that right mid area, the only thing that's going to diminish the card a little bit is the low defensive work rate. But him playing in that area is still perfectly fine if you're going to be attacking more than anything with him, right? Because, guys, his dribbling in game with his body type actually works out really nicely, because he's a really physical type dude, right? When you can dribble nicely with 96 for strength, 85 for stamina, which is a pretty decent cutoff for a player that you could play in any attacking position, with 77 aggression, with the base card stats for pace being that high, it's crazy, right? So for me personally, I enjoyed using him a lot. I think this is the first year where I personally enjoyed using the Adama Traore card. Last year, you know, it wasn't for me, but I could see why people liked him for their different reasons. But with Adama Traore this year, I do feel like there's a lot of potential, right? In the future, because here's the thing. This promo, if you improve his weak foot, could have been a 4 or 5, whatever. But, you know, with Adama Traore, I'm going to put him, I would say, again, we're going to keep adjusting this as we go along. But with Adama Traore, I'm going to put him at the A tier for now, because it's a card that you definitely can use for the meta of the game, for sure, right? Most of these cards you can. So there's not going to be a lot of cards in the lower brackets, right? Honestly, yeah, there's not going to be a lot of cards in the lower brackets. So Adama Traore, I'm going to put him in the A tier for now. Claude-Maurice. So, guys, Claude-Maurice. So let's talk about this for a second. And I mentioned this in the leak video as well. So yes, medium work rates, but I don't care if you're a medium work rate, as long as if I give you a shadow chemistry style for a midfielder, you're good at doing everything, okay? And that's what he is. He's going to have 99 acceleration, 99 for sprint speed. The defensive stats are there, but you do have to take into consideration, obviously, the medium work rates. But guys, he's a lean body type while being a 5'9" player, okay? So the medium work rate is not as big of an influence on a card like this, right? Because yeah, 4-star skill moves, 3-star weak foot, you know, a card like this, honestly, you can play in the center mid position if you're playing a 4-1-2-2. You can play him as one of your CDMs, but probably a little bit more attacking oriented than defensive oriented because of the way that it's set up, obviously. But it's a very solid card. When I did the review, the card was at like 80k, but now the card is at 40k, which I think is incredibly fair for what he offers in game in regards to links and in-game quality. Now, again, you shouldn't expect the card to be like some sort of full meta beast, but still a very, very solid card to use for the meta of the game, in my opinion. Everything just works really well off of each other because of that lean body type, height, and pace stats being as high as it is, with some pretty decent physical capabilities, right? So with the Claude-Maurice card, again, we're going to be putting him at the A tier because it is a card that you can use as the baby meta of the game. Correa is the next one. You guys know that Correa is a card that I feel like this year is actually very solid. But the only thing with Correa's card that you have to work with, right, is going to be in the average body type, right? So obviously for the meta of the game, if you want to go for quick dribbles in certain scenarios for a striker, sometimes it could present to be an issue. But the thing about Correa's card, guys, is that, and this is what I talk about all the time with people, is that his high medium work rates in the attacking positions is really good. The way that this card moves across the pitch, the way that he opens up the space for you to go for that one driven pass, small little touch, finish immediately, he's insane at doing that, right? So a card like this, you give a Hunter chemistry style to, you give a Hawk chemistry style to, depending on what you want the most, because here's the thing, if you can boost his pace to a 94 acceleration, 93 for sprint speed, but you're also giving him that extra aggression with really good shooting stats, it's fantastic to work with, right? It's just that this card, from a base perspective, you just have to work with the average body type. But the difference between the rare gold and this one is a welcome difference, right? It's a +3 and a +4 for composure. So as you guys know in FIFA, once they get into the +3s, the +4s category, that's when it makes more sense. And honestly, the price range of the card at a 250k-ish area, I don't think is bad at all. I think the card is definitely pretty cool to use if that's going to be your playstyle, like kind of working with the attacking AI stuff. But if it's like dribbling, again, the average body type may annoy you from time to time, like we did show in the review. But you guys know me, I just like the players to move across the pitch really nicely, because even Benzema's flashback card has weird dribbling from time to time, but you compensate for it because of what he offers everywhere else, right? Dribbling with an average body type nowadays, it's not as bad as it was in previous years, right? So again, a very, very solid card that can play in the baby meta of the game. So we're going to put him into the A tier as well. Next one is the Everton card. So the card that I ended up reviewing, guys, was actually the ice version, because my homie had the ice version on the card, right? So if we take a look at the difference between this card, and we're probably going to be doing the tier list for the ice version as well, but if we take a look at the difference between the ice version and this version right here, right? If we go to this one, the shooting, right, on this one is lower, but the passing is higher, right? So you can actually see the difference there. So it's a weird situation, because for me personally, when it comes to the Everton card, a lot of people were just giving him the marksman chemistry style, which is not a bad choice, because obviously if you give him the marksman chemistry style, you boost the shooting to be in a pretty decent area, you boost the dribbling to be a pretty decent area, and then you also give him the extra physical stats too, which is pretty solid. But for me personally, guys, again, you do notice that base characteristic of his dribbling kind of being transferred over to this card, obviously because of the fact that he has the average body type. Now, the one thing that I will say about Everton's card that I do think is cool to work with is the high-low work rates. The high-low work rates is very noticeable. When I was using him in the player review, and I was using him in the player review without actually checking out the card, and the first thing that I said was like, this card is either like a high-low or a high-medium with the way he's moving across the pitch, right? And it ended up being the case with the card. I don't even remember what the rare gold work rates were. I just used him in the team for like some objectives and whatnot. But I always felt like his dribbling was annoying from time to time, right? But with this Everton card, for a gameplay objective, you can't go wrong. But obviously the dribbling will throw you off from time to time. And obviously the 3-star weak foot in certain shooting scenarios will bother you from time to time as well. So if I were to put him in the list, I'd probably put him at a B tier. He's neutral. He can play in the meta of the game, play for good enough of the game for sure. Just not necessarily too crazy of a card. I do like him enough to be able to use him in the game because he's unique in other areas, right? So the high-low work rates I like. And then, you know, being able to shoot on his right foot when given the opportunity to, also great as well. The next card is Gomez. So with Gomez's card, I wasn't crazy about Gomez from the rare golds perspective. But here's the thing, man. This card has been improved. If we take a look at the improvements, they have now put his acceleration to a 79 with an 89 for sprint speed, right? So this card on a shadow chemistry style with a unique body type, the only thing that I feel like you would notice mostly for a Joe Gomez card in the game is going to be an acceleration from time to time for the meta of the game, right? Obviously, because of the lob passes being super effective, the through passes being super effective, the card might get annoying from time to time, right? But the thing is, guys, is that with Joe Gomez, he just really needed the defensive boost, in my opinion, right? And I know a lot of people actually really enjoyed using his rare gold card, so this is definitely on me, right? But just take a look at the difference between the rare gold and the new version, right? So they're boosting his physical by 5s and 6s, they're boosting his defense by 4s, and they're also boosting the dribbling and the pace by 4s and 5s, right? So with a card like this, it should feel significantly better in game. It'd be surprising if he was terrible. He really shouldn't be terrible. It definitely looks like a very, very solid card for sure. I never tried him out myself, but like I said, the only thing that I would probably notice is the initial acceleration out of the card. But for the meta of the game, as we were saying, again, should be at an A tier. It's a card that should definitely be very good or good enough to use for the meta of the game. Next card that we have here is going to be the Gabriel Jesus card, which we ended up reviewing today as well. By the way, guys, we do have most of the reviews for these cards if you guys want to go ahead and check them out. But with Gabriel Jesus, guys, this card is very solid on the Hawk chemistry style because the Hawk chemistry style improves the card really nicely in certain areas of it, right? So you give him the extra pace, you give him the extra shooting, you give him the extra physical. Passing stats are already pretty nice, although long passing is pretty short from time to time, like depending on the situation. And then the dribbling stats is cool because he has a unique body type. Now, the one thing that I will say is that with his unique body type, I don't think it's super insane, but I still think it's pretty decent because if you guys watched the review, there were times where you kind of had to work with it a little bit, but with a card like this, it's almost kind of like worth it if you do, right? Again, with cards, when it comes to dribbling, guys, the only cards you're not going to have to work with is like the top tier meta cards, like if you were to use like a Neymar at striker or something, right? But with these cards, you do have to work with it a little bit. 5'9", great height, high medium work rates. Cards like this, they work really well in a 2 striker formation. I don't think that Gabriel Jesus has I don't think he's like a Correa, right? But I like that he's not, because the way that he kind of positions himself in the pitch for a 2 striker lineup, I actually like a lot. I think the way that he moves across the pitch is really, really good. Now, the 2 things that I will say that is a little bit off-putting with the card, obviously, is dribbling sometimes, right? But it's mostly in the 3-star weak foot and the price of the card, okay? The price of the card is way too expensive for what he offers in game. I don't think that he is a high tier meta card, okay? I think this is absolutely 100% overhyped like crazy, okay? I do think that the card is pretty solid in game. 1.1 million coins is crazy though. Absolutely insane. But again, for the meta of the game, definitely going to be putting him at an A tier. What's crazy about these cards, guys, is that some of these would actually be at a very, very high tier if they gave that 5-star weak foot or 4-star weak foot improvement, right? Kounde. Okay, so Kounde is going to be the first person that I would consider almost full meta, for sure. I think he's almost full meta. Why is he almost full meta? Because if you take a look at the card in game, guys, he has everything to be good, okay? First of all, the rare gold card in the beginning of the year, always important, okay? The rare gold card was solid to use, okay? Absolutely solid. The pace boost, the defensive boost you give this card, some decent physical, decent dribbling. You know, the difference between that and this, right? If we take off the chemistry style, look at it, man. Look at the dribbling boost. It's not 5s or 6s or 4s. It's 10s and 12s and 11s, okay? The defense is a +3. The physical is a +2. The pace is a +3. But it's the dribbling, guys. The dribbling improvement is massive because here's the thing, man. Everything works all together, okay? A card like this, you give a shadow chemistry style too. First of all, 94 acceleration, 94 sprint speed is fantastic to work with. Those defensive stats, okay? The only thing that's in the 80s is heading accuracy, but who cares, right? Because defensive awareness at a 93 while working with a high defensive work rate at an average body type at a 5'11 height. But not only that, but he actually has the jumping to compensate for the height. Crazy, okay? Then on top of that, you know, the physical stats are actually pretty solid as well at 81 for strength, 77 for aggression. If they boosted his aggression even more, oh my goodness, okay? A card like this, guys, right, with the high work rates, that's the only thing that's like a little bit of a downfall for the card, right? But the fact that he has the high defensive work rate, that's the more important part for him, okay? I think that the way that he moves across the pitch in the defensive positions, when you're manually using him, when you're not using him, is very, very solid. Again, with any center back in this game, they're going to have their moments. Even Kimpembe, who is an absolute monster in the game, even he'll have his moments too, right? But Kounde is going to be the one guy where I would put him at the S tier, right? There is not really much wrong with the card, you know? Like, the only thing that I would say that's off is the high attacking work rates, but honestly, not really that big of a deal in my opinion, right? Definitely not. Okay, so the next ones here we have is going to be, we have the Mbabu card. Mbabu's card, so let's see Mbabu's card in game, right? So with the way that this card is formatted, guys, here's the thing. The card is going to be a defensive monster, okay? Because of the body type that he has. If he has the same body type as last year, I guarantee you he's going to be a monster. Average body type. Guys, for defenders, average body type is sick. I love average body type for the defenders, especially if their stats kind of bounce off of each other really nicely. If we take a look at the chemistry style that most people are giving him, it is the anchor chemistry style, right? So a card like this on the anchor chemistry style, let's take a look at it, right? So 96 acceleration, 96 for sprint speed. The defense is there. The physical is there. You give him the extra aggression with the pace. Now, the only thing that you'll notice in regards to being like a super S tier card is being like a Hakimi, right? Because he's not going to feel as agile as Hakimi. Hakimi has the 4-star weak foot to work with, and he also offers you an attacking presence. So if it's an Hakimi card, yeah, he's going to be in the S tier, right? But this Mbabu card, guys, is set up really, really nicely. For a card that is mostly going to be on stay back while attacking, for a card that you're probably going to maybe rotate into the center back position, depending on how you want to line up your right mid in a 3-5-2, it's a really, really sick card. It's just going to be that defensive monster for you in that area. That's the type of card that he's going to be in general, right? So again, for the Mbabu card, definitely put him at the A tier as well. This promo is pretty good for players in the meta of the gameplay, right? So you're not going to really see players in the C or the D tier because, you know, they're still pretty solid, right? The Pereyra card. So let's take a look at this Pereyra card, because when we checked out the leak video and we're checking out his base characteristics, the card had a lot of potential. Okay, so he's a 14.5k card. 14.5k card. This card is probably going to be super underrated. 14.5k. So defensive awareness is low, but let's take a look at this bad boy, okay? So his pace stats is at a 93 for acceleration, 88 for sprint speed. That, with the high work rates, 6 foot tall, lean body type, with great dribbling stats, and 92 stamina, with decent defense so that you give him the shadow chemistry style. Yes, defensive awareness is low, but you give him the high defensive work rate that he already has, while working with some pretty decent physical stats. You can't go wrong with a card like this. You know, if you're using him in like a 4-2-3-1 system, where he's probably going to be a little bit more attacking oriented, a tiny bit, because obviously the lean body type, 6 foot tall, has some pretty decent shooting stats. The card is actually pretty solid. I think he's actually underrated for the price that he actually is. A 4-star player with high work rates, guys, like most of the times is already going to be pretty meta for the game. Like it's a card that you definitely can play in it. I'm surprised a lot of people are not checking out this card, to be honest, because I guess you'd probably have to have like a Simeone in your team to be able to like link him and stuff with the Argentina links and whatnot, depending on how you split the team, of course, right? But yeah, the Pereyra card ended up, you know, coming out really nicely, I think. Because here's the thing, right? It's very important that the rare gold is decent enough. And this card, some people actually used for their little baby Serie A teams, right? The baby meta Serie A teams. Because, you know, a card like this that has pace like that, shooting, passing, dribbling, it's solid, especially with a lean body type in the midfield position. Again, you really can't go wrong with this card. So I would say, yeah, I would put him at the A tier as well, because you know it's like using like a Claude, like for their own characteristics, like, you know what I'm saying? Like they're kind of very, very similar, I would say. The Rashford card, Rashford's card. Okay, so Rashford this year is a pretty solid player, I would say. He's a solid player. I don't think he's like crazy. I don't think he's like an S tier card. I think that at some point in the future, he definitely can become an S tier card. So if we take a look at this card, right, what doesn't make him S tier? The only thing that doesn't make him S tier is that, you know, it's the weak foot at a 3-star from time to time, right? A card like this, again, for me personally, I would give him the finisher chemistry style because of the extra shooting boost for consistency, right? You want to boost that as much as possible. But here's the thing with this card too. You could totally get away with giving him an engine chemistry style and using him through the middle and through the side positions as well. With 86 finishing, it's not super ideal for certain shots in regards to consistency, right? But he does have 95 shot power. So because the shot power is significantly higher than the finishing, I always tell you guys that that's going to be the most important part, because in FIFA, shooting can be random from time to time, especially with the variable of time finishing, right? But if you get into the right angles at the right times with a card like Rashford, you can score with this card because of that base card stats for shot power being as high as it is, right? I think that Rashford this year is actually a pretty solid card. Again, it is a card that I would mainly use in the right-sided position, or if I'm using him in a 2-striker lineup, he's being played as the right striker. You can totally use him as a lone striker as well, because he actually does move quite nicely with the high medium work rates and the 86 attacking positioning. I just feel like, you know, if you use him through the middle, a finisher would probably be more ideal if you want to have a little bit more consistent finishing. But an engine would be ideal as well if you want to rotate him in your team. You want to put him in the side positions through the middle, wouldn't necessarily be a bad thing, right? So again, with the Rashford card, it's another card that I would definitely add into the A tier, because, you know, it's a combination of different stuff, man. The unique body type is great to work with a 6'1" height for certain scenarios, but you need to boost the dribbling, okay? You need to. It's very, very important for him. Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to be A tier. I'm going to be very surprised if I put anybody else. Schultz. Let me see Schultz's card. Because these are all this promo was the reason, guys. This promo, okay, it was a good promo because of the potential it had, because the players that they released, they're all cards you can use in the meta of the gameplay. This one, guys, I'm gonna probably put him at a B tier. By the way, the Everton card is not awful, right? It's just that for the meta of the game with these guys, it's a little bit different to the Everton card, but he's not far off of these A tier guys at all, right? The Schultz guy is probably going to be the first dude or the second dude that I put into the B tier, just because of the way that he's formatted. Because with Schultz, again, not a bad card by any means, right? He actually has some pretty solid stuff. But on an anchor chemistry style, right? A card like this at 93 acceleration, 99 for sprint speed, 5'11" height, average body type, all of that is cut off really nicely, right? 3-star, 3-star in the left-sided position, not bad. Passing is decent, but curve is low. I mean, it's almost harsh to put him in the B tier. It's almost harsh. I would say, like, if I was going to do it, I'd probably do this. I don't think that the C tier is terrible, though, guys. I don't. I will say that the Galeno card is better than this Everton card, though. Galeno's card is actually really, really solid. Yeah. If I'm going to do the tier list, I'd probably do it like this then. Yeah. But this is not terrible, though. In the C tier, he's not terrible. None of the cards are terrible, to be honest. But if I was going to put Schultz in the team, right, for a fullback that gives you those German links, that gives you those Borussia Dortmund links, again, another card you can't really go wrong with the anchor chemistry style, because, guys, average body type, 5'11", good defensive stats with good physical stats. It's just a card you can't go wrong with, again, right? And then we have the Tagliafico card. So we reviewed his freeze card, or not the freeze card, but the ice card. And what I will say about this card is that, again, a very, very solid gameplay objective card. Very, very solid. I really enjoyed using him. The only thing that, you know, puts him away from the S tier is, you know, giving him extra shooting. But at the same time, like, there's going to be defensive players that pro players use that are not going to have the defensive presence. But let's just say, for instance, right? Like if we looked at Cafu, right? A lot of people are using Cafu, love using Cafu, right? So let's see, 90. With Cafu's card, guys, he also doesn't have shooting, right? So it's hard to say a card is an S tier or not when they don't have the defensive, or not the defense stats, when they don't have the shooting, because most people who are going to be playing FIFA are not going to have attacking oriented fullbacks. They just kind of want them to defend as much as possible. I'm going to put Tagliafico in the A tier as well. And I'm going to show you guys why I'd put him in the A tier as well. Because, okay, we got the ice version, right? The difference between the ice and the red, is it ice and red? Is that what they're called? Versus ice and then versus fire. That's what it is, right? So the difference between the two is, you know, lower dribbling on the red one, but the defending is higher, which I'm not completely against, right? But I just feel like with this card right here, because of his base card stats for dribbling being higher, that's just more ideal, because you're going to give him a shadow chemistry style anyways, right? What makes this card so good? Left-footed, high work rates, average body type, 5'8" height. If it was like a 5'10", it'd be crazy, but 5'8" height is pretty decent. He has aggression to work with the pace. He has the stamina to work with the work rates, right? It's just an all-round very solid card. If you can link him in your team, depending on how you want to line up your meta, because obviously if you get Gravenberch, you can use Gravenberch, obviously. It wouldn't be like crazy ideal, right? But Tagliafico is, again, a very solid card, a very good gameplay objective. Probably one of the best we've gotten, to be honest, but it would be a fullback to be one of the best, right? And then last but not least, we have the Valverde card. Valverde's card. So what I'll say about Valverde's card, right, is that this card, again, because he was a baby meta card, this card right here, you guys know, was a very solid card to use in the beginning of the year. Because this card has been improved as much as he has as well, right, with a defense in a +7 area, physical in a +4, passing is there, shooting has been increased, pace is there, right? A card like this, guys, who is a high work rated player, 4-star capabilities, you give this bad boy a shadow chemistry style while being that tall, while working with a unique body type, stamina being super high, right? Pace being there as well. It's a really good card, especially for the really like crazy Real Madrid links, right? This card, guys, it would be very hard to not put him at an S tier, right? It would be. It would be very difficult, but it's a card. It'd be hard, man, because Fofana for meta is really good, right? And I just want to show you guys a Fofana card, right? With Fofana's card, and when I showed you guys the review, okay, in the review video, I mentioned how important it is that he has that 4-star weak foot. He has the high and average body type as you have to work with, right? But in the midfield position with high work rates on a shadow chemistry style, but his base card stats for defending is actually in a pretty decent area as well, with interceptions already high, standing tackles already being really high. This card has a shooting presence, right? This card is pretty meta, and you guys know a lot of pro players actually ended up using him in the team. This Valverde card is not completely far off, right? So I would put him at the S tier for the meta of the game as a midfielder being played in a 2 midfield setup, for sure. You know, height is there, unique body type is there, a card that can push forward, come back really nicely, especially with the 90 for stamina, 85 for aggression. It's a lot of cool stuff to work with, in my opinion. So again, guys, it's another tier list that I would say can definitely be argued against for sure. There's a lot of very good cards in this promo. There's a lot of cards you can definitely argue between. The Kounde, I don't even think is an argument. I think he's an S tier card for sure. Everything else from like the A's to the S, you can definitely like switch between some of them for sure. But I think that this is a very comfortable meta tier list for these guys. Here's the thing, guys, is that if they were to do like, if I were to do like a tier list for like SBC content that EA have released recently, some of these cards that are in the A tier or whatever will probably be in the S tier depending on the quality of the actual SBC. Like if it's like a Fakir card, Fakir is pretty nuts in this game, right? But this promo was really good for the types of players that they released. It was just the weak foot that we really needed extra, you know? That's what it really was. in my opinion, when it came to this promo. But it was still a good promo. The boost that they gave these cards have been phenomenal. I'm looking forward to the ice one as well, because of the differences of the cards. It's going to definitely be very, very cool to work with. But hopefully you guys enjoy this video today. I'll catch you guys for next one. Peace out, dudes. Love you guys.